All right, let's talk about your speaking topic because a lot of speakers tend to just start their business out wrong. So, this first video is just going to talk about your speaking topic and your market in general. And the biggest speaker problem, well, one of the big problems that I see is speakers tend to say, like, how do I find people who hire speakers like me? And how do I find my market? And the problem with this is usually the follow your passion type of advice because you hear all the time people say follow your passion, follow your passion. And if your passion is something that people aren't buying, then you can't follow your passion. And so people, well, a lot of speakers are stuck in this mode of, oh, how do I find the people who hire speakers like me? And oh, I've got this topic, I've got this message, and I need to find people who are hiring someone like me. And so they get stuck. And if that's you, then you need to watch this. If you already understand what your topic is and you're already good to go on that, you don't need to watch this. But if you're not sure about your market, you're trying to figure out how to choose the right market, then you need to watch this. And 99% of speakers need to watch this just because they start their business out wrong and they don't realize it. So really just pay close attention. And first thing I want to talk about is you want to test everything because you just want to figure things out for yourself and you're going to keep changing as the time goes on. So in the beginning, you may say, oh, I'm this type of speaker or I do this type of thing. And later on, you realize, okay, that's not really working out the way I thought. So I'm going to change it. And you just keep testing everything. When I started calling myself a magician. Then I realized, maybe I'm not going to call myself a magician. I'm going to call myself an illusionist. And I said, okay, let me call myself a mentalist. I said, okay, let me call myself a speaker. And I just kept changing. And then when I went to speaker, I now changed to, oh, let me do motivational speaking. And I just kept changing till I got the market right. And that's what you want to do is you're just going to keep changing everything. You got to understand that there are two completely different markets. There's a seminar market and there's the corporate market. The seminar market is more business to consumer, that's B2C. The corporate market is B2B. And the seminar market is more of where you say things like, oh, I'm a health and wellness speaker or I'm a fitness speaker. And this is where you can create products, you can build a list. This is where when you see on, when you just see people talking about marketing, they say like, oh, build your list, build your list. This is what they're really talking about is more the seminar market where it's a business to consumer. You are selling a product to a consumer, to a specific person with a specific problem. And it's like, okay, I'm a fitness trainer and I sell how to get abs. And that's what the seminar market is more interested in. The corporate market is where you say things like, I'm an inspirational speaker, I'm a motivational speaker, I'm a sales speaker. This is where your product is the speech. You're not trying to sell a book, you're not trying to sell this coaching program. Your product is the speech. And that's the biggest difference between the seminar and the corporate market. Now, what you talk about and how you sell your talk are two completely different things. You can't sell what people aren't interested in buying. And so you have to think about what types of speakers get hired. This is one of the biggest problems I see speakers make when they're building their business is they just start out wrong. So they think about, oh, here's my message, here's what my talk is, instead of thinking about how do you sell that talk? Because it's two completely different things. And no matter what, you just can't sell what people aren't interested in. And this is why people say, I literally had a speaker send me an email where they said, oh, well, I know that my topic isn't really for the corporate market, but how do I get them interested? How do I get them to hire me anyways? And I thought like, is this person crazy? What are you talking about? That's like saying, oh, I know that I have the best steak in the world, but how do I get a vegetarian to eat it? I mean, I want the vegetarian to eat my steak. I mean, how do I do it? And you just can't sell what people aren't interested in buying. So really understand there's a huge difference between what you talk about and how to sell your talk. So separate those two different things. Think about it like this. Your message is what you talk about. So when you hear people say, "Oh, just deliver your message," your message is what you talk about. But selling your talk is what other people are searching for. So other people aren't searching for the passion, perspective, speech. People aren't searching for that. What they're searching for is a sales speaker. What they're searching for is an inspirational speaker, a leadership speaker, a motivational speaker. Those are the people that people are searching for. That's what they type in into Google. So there's a huge difference. Your message is whatever you talk about, whatever you get on stage and talk about. Selling your talk is what other people are searching for. And you got to think in terms of, okay, the right product but the wrong market equals no sales. So if you sell to the corporate market the same way as you sell to seminars, then you're going to fail. So you can have the greatest product in the world, you can have the greatest speech in the world, but if you choose the wrong market, then it doesn't matter. It's just like what I mentioned earlier, where you can have the greatest steak in the world. I mean, the absolute best steak in the world. But if you say, I'm going to try to sell this steak to vegetarians, it's not going to work. You're not going to get any sales. Instead, you got to say, okay, I got the best steak in the world. I got the best speech in the world. I'm going to sell this steak to meat lovers. I'm going to sell this steak to people who freaking love meat, people who love steak. And you go off and you go do that. And that's how it works. And a perfect example with a sales speaker, let's say you're a sales speaker, is this is the difference. So for the corporate market, you would say things like, hey, do you need an energetic sales speaker that will make your team feel like they can just take on the world? A sales speaker that can just make your team hungry. For the seminar market, you would say something like this. Hey, are you struggling to sell? Do you want to learn? Do you want to learn the secrets of how the best salespeople get people to buy what they're selling? And there, do you see the difference? Think about the difference between what I just said. So for the corporate market, you're saying things like, "Hey, do you need an energetic sales speaker who's going to make your team feel like they can take on the world? Who's going to just get your sales team hyped up to make more calls, to do more prospecting, just get them hungry to make money?" And then the example for seminars is, hey, are you guys struggling to sell? Do you want to learn the secrets of how the top salespeople get people to buy? So there's a huge difference. Another example is the motivational speaker example. So for the corporate market, you say things like, oh, Jane is the funniest motivational speaker you'll ever see. People die laughing. And for the seminar market, you say things like, you use the law of attraction to accomplish your goals. Visualize it inside of your mind, and you will accomplish all your wildest dreams. And that's good for the seminar market. But the way you sell a motivational talk is completely different. For the corporate market, you say things like, hey, this is the funniest motivational speech you'll ever see. And then for the seminar market, you say things like, oh, you want to use a law of attraction to accomplish your goals, create a vision board. And that there's a huge difference in what your talk is in selling that talk. So you essentially say like, okay, I speak about XYZ. My message is XYZ and nobody cares. So many speakers do this. Nobody cares what your message is. Nobody cares what you speak about. So an example is where someone said, I speak on history. And I told this guy, you need to change it to, I'm a leadership speaker. And then in his speech, he would use history examples. And and that's the difference between what your talk is and how to sell your talk. And this is a perfect example from a speaker who sent me an email. He said, oh, I speak on history, and hey, I want to do more talks. I want to get more paid gigs. And I said, look, you got to change it. You can't say I speak on history. You got to say I'm a leadership speaker. And you train the leaders, you train the executives in terms of how to lead. And then in your speech, when you're on stage, you give examples of Napoleon and how he just owned, how he just dominated, and Alexander the Great and took over the world, and how all that stuff just combines with leadership. And so there's a huge difference. And you got to think about what speakers are currently getting hired. And an easy way to do this is just look up the Speaker Bureau website. So go to Google, type in Speaker Bureau, and go to their website and just look at the speakers that they feature, the speakers that they promote. Click on the tabs like the speaking topics and look up those speakers and think about what speakers are currently getting hired. And you want to describe yourself in a similar way, and then you're going to make your speech different. So there's a difference in your speech and selling the speech. So your speech is you just delivering your product. It's however good you are as a speaker. But the way you sell the speech is you have to describe it in a way that people are looking for. And this is why you go to Speaker Bureau's website, look at the speakers that they feature, look at the speakers that they talk the most about, the topics that they talk the most about, and what you'll see is they talk a lot about motivational speakers, inspirational speakers, leadership speakers, sales speakers, business speakers. They talk a lot about those topics. That's how you describe yourself. That's how you're going to sell your speech. Now, I do want to give you a little warning here because speakers rarely listen to this advice even after being told this multiple times. I just don't get it. I mean, the one of the first times I experienced this was when a girl came up to me and she approached me. She talked with another very successful speaker and like two other speakers. Every one of us told her the same thing. I mean, we said, look, you can't, her topic was addiction. She said, oh, I speak about addiction. And once again, that's how most speakers do. They say, I speak about XYZ. She said, I speak about addiction. And every single one of us said, no, you can't do that. You got to change it. You got to say you're a breakthrough speaker or you're a motivational speaker. And then in your speech, you talk about how you were addicted and how you overcame that. And you can't say I speak about addiction because that's not what people hire. And she didn't listen and she's still struggling. And every single speaker I've told this to who did not pay for advice, every single one just simply kept doing what they were doing. So I'm going to give you a warning. If you aren't getting on stages, if you aren't doing business, if you're not making money, then you gotta change. There is something wrong with what you're doing. And if you are describing yourself in the wrong way, everything from this point forward will absolutely fail. You can have the greatest web designer, you can have 100 salespeople working for you, but if you describe yourself the wrong way, everything you do will fail. It is literally like trying to sell steak to a vegetarian. And so you have to understand the difference between what you talk about and how to sell that talk. Now, the highest paid speakers are motivational, sales, and leadership speakers. And these are the industries with the highest paid speakers, especially motivational speakers. And you got to detach yourself emotionally. You can't care if someone else is doing what you want to do. I can't tell you how many emails I get from people who say, oh, I don't want to really be a motivational speaker. I don't want to be an inspirational speaker. Everyone's doing it. I say, well, that's because they're the highest paid speakers in the world. Everyone's searching for those speakers. So it doesn't matter if you say that you're a motivational speaker, sales speaker, whatever. You don't want the thing you don't want to do is you don't want to describe yourself in a way that nobody actually searches for just by using like cute words and all that. If you are in sales, you say I'm a sales speaker. If you are a leadership speaker, you say I'm a leadership speaker. If you are a motivational speaker, you're a motivational speaker. And you got to detach yourself emotionally by not caring if other people call themselves a motivational speaker or if you think it's cliche or whatever. Detach emotionally. Simply look at the market and say, okay, motivational speakers are the highest paid speakers in the world. Ever since speaking started, motivational speakers have been the highest paid ever. And it's not going away anytime soon. So detach yourself emotionally and describe yourself the right way. And you might be asking, like, okay, is that really it? I mean, that's really all I have to do? I mean, it comes down to what works, not what's new. So many people say, oh, well, this is new. Oh, that's amazing. And they're always looking for the new things. You got to think, okay, what works? I mean, what worked? Saying that you're a motivational speaker, that works. You don't get cute with it. Saying that you're a sales speaker, that works. Don't get cute with it. It really is that simple. And you don't want to make it difficult. You want to get your own ego out of the way. And you got to think, okay, it's not about just figuring out your speaking topic. It's about figuring out what topics people pay for, and then you describe yourself that way. So many people say, okay, I speak about XYZ, but you really got to do the reverse. You say, okay, what do people pay for? What does this market pay for? Well, it just so happens that's what I talk about. That's how it really works. And once again, I want to warn you, if you go against this advice, you will not build a business. It's literally like trying to sell steak to a vegetarian if you go against this advice. So to find a topic that's selling, well, you want to find a topic that's selling by looking at the market first. So look up 20 speakers who are similar to you. So if you say, okay, I'm a sales speaker, then look up 20 sales speakers. Look at their websites. Look at what they're talking about. Look at their videos and really look them up, really study them. And this is going to help you in terms of how you should position yourself and what you should be talking about. So look up other speakers, especially if you're in a market that I didn't talk about. If you're not a motivational sales or leadership speaker, if you're in some other market, look up that market and think in terms of, okay, can you even find 20 top-notch speakers? If you have a hard time finding 20 speakers in that market, then it's a bad market, trust me. So you want to think, okay, find 20 speakers who are similar to you that you can easily describe and really just study them. Now, some examples of good markets are like the college market, sales organizations, employee events, award banquets, associations, companies, and then people who have just hired speakers in the past. These are examples of markets. If you can figure out the market first, where you say, okay, here's the market, here's what people pay for, and then you offer them what they actually pay for, then it makes it a million times easier. So if I look at the college market and I say, okay, I'm going to go after the college market. Well, I say, okay, what type of speakers do the college market do they actually hire? They don't hire speakers who talk about candles. They don't hire candle speakers, but they do hire motivational speakers. So I say, okay, I'm going to be a motivational speaker then. And sales organizations, if I look at the sales organization market with companies with like MLM companies or real estate or insurance companies, all those are sales organizations. So if I look at them, I say, okay, what type of speakers do they hire? Well, they hire a lot of sales speakers. They hire a lot of motivational speakers. So, that's what I'm going to talk about then. And that's what you do. That's how you build your business. You say, here's the market. What speakers do they hire? That's what I speak about. And once you figure this out, once you realize, okay, here's the market, now you just want to create your competitive advantage. And this is something that you create as time goes on. So if you don't know what your competitive advantage is right now, you can figure it out later on. So it might be you're funny, it might be entertainment, it might be that you're really intense. It can just be your style in general. But you got to think in terms of what your competitive advantage is. I remember how a lot of speakers say things to me constantly where they're like, hey, I can't do that mind reading stuff. I think, yeah, well, that's the point. That's my advantage. You're not supposed to be able to do what I do. And that's what you want. That's what you want, to where you want to be so funny, so freaking hilarious on stage that other people can't copy you, that other people can't be as funny as you. Or if you're really intense, you want to have this intense vibe where people say like, holy crap, and people just can't copy you. That's what your competitive advantage is. And I mean, at first you may not know what it is, but as you do more presentations, you'll naturally start to see it. And we're going to talk about the details of selling your speech in the upcoming videos and how to find the events and really get booked. But just understand that when it comes to starting out, you have to figure out what's the market, and then you figure out what's the speech. It's not the other way around. It's not follow your passion. It's what are other people passionate about? What do they want to buy? Oh, that's what I'm selling you. That's how it actually works. So we're going to talk about everything else coming up, but just keep that in mind. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about is just things to get done. So first thing, you just want to pick a market that hires speakers. So what speakers do they hire? And just really pick the right market, whether it's sales organizations, colleges, whatever. Pick the market that hires speakers and ask yourself, what speakers do they hire? Do not do it the other way around where 99.999% of people do, where they say, here's what I speak about. Let me go find someone who's going to pay me. You do it the opposite. You say, okay, what market do I want to speak to? Oh, here's what I speak about. So it's kind of the opposite. The second thing you want to do is research 20 speakers in the market that you want to speak in. So if you say you want to be a sales speaker, look up sales speakers and look at their websites, their videos, how they describe themselves. Just look it up. Just do your research. So those are the big things that you want to get done. So you pick a market that hires speakers, then you figure out, okay, what speakers do they actually hire? And then you want to research 20 speakers in that market that you want to speak in. So get that done and then go on to the next one, to video number 2.